I can't picture what hard drugs are. So in my head, it's like they're doing some hard drugs, and then just cut to a guy. It's like, man, it's really hard to do these drugs.
Hello, and welcome back to Rewatching Home Movies, a weekly watch-along podcast where three friends break down the 1999 animated series, Home Movies. My name is Tim, and I'm obsessed with home movies.
My name's Adele, and I'm a home movies newbie.
And my name's Marcin, and I've never seen home movies.
Home Movies Season 2, Episode 11, titled Writer's Block. Original air date March 16th, 2002 on Adult Swim, written by Brendan Small, Bill Broaddus, and cast, directed by Lauren Bouchard, and produced by Melissa Barden-Galsky. Synopsis: Brendan gets writer's block right before the school writing fair. Meanwhile, Coach struggles with insomnia. That's it. 2-sentence synopsis.
So I have to be honest about this. I was trying my best not to see the title. I was trying so hard, but...
I think I showed it.
No, it wasn't you. It was on Max, because it not only does it show the title in the bottom left-hand corner, it also shows it on the tab when you go to look at the tabs. And I wasn't ready for it, and I saw it, and I was like, fuck! But they do say the title within, I think 5 minutes.
First scene. So I am very excited to jump into this episode. Our first episode of the new year. Guys, how does it feel to be in the new year?
I want to go back.
I feel uncomfortable.
My whole body hurts.
You remember Harambe? I want to go there.
Oh, no.
Go back to Harambe.
Poor Harambe. Rest in peace.
If there was a canon event for this particular timeline, do you think it's Harambe?
I don't think it's a can. I feel like that's what changed the timeline.
Oh,
Harambe.
Yeah, the knock it off the canon. But before we jump into that, let's jump into the creative corner, shall we? The creative corner, of course, is when we showcase something creative that we're either producing, consuming, whatever in the realm of creativity. Creative corner, hit it, Bob. Creative corner, doodly-doo.
Bob's got a movie coming out about him.
Yeah, I think because we let him do the creative corner for season 2, I think it gave him a little bump.
Yeah. Well, I know Timothy Chalamet listens to the podcast, and he was like, oh shit, I need to do a biopic about Bob Dylan based on this podcast.
Yeah. Low-key, I heard that in the background of one of the scenes, you can hear him doing a vocal warm-up, and he's like, doodly-doo.
Yep. Canon.
Yeah, look out for that. So, Creative Corner, who would like to go first?
I can go first. So, I have a list of creative corners that I keep on my phone. So, in case I ever forget of ones I want to do, I'll just scroll through there. However, yesterday I have a mutual friend. We all have a mutual friend. My computer has been messed up because when I was transporting it, one of the SATA cables on my most important hard drive snapped off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and the SATA cable, it wasn't just the SATA cable, it was the attachment of the hard drive that connects to the SATA cable. It broke off into the SATA cable, and I almost had a panic attack. I almost freaked the fuck out because it was the most important hard drive that I had. So I contacted a mutual friend of ours, Joe, and I was like, Joe, please, God, Joe, help, please, Joe, for the love of God, Joe. And
Wizard Joe.
For the love of Joe, please.
Please. He was the same person I contacted when the 4 episodes almost got deleted for this podcast. And I was like, Joe, help us out, please.
Joe is a real one. Joe saved those episodes, and Joe saved the interview with Chris.
Yeah, our Lord and Savior Joe.
My wonderful partner drove all the way over to drop off the hard drive while I was at work. And then Joe, he was like, I'll drive back on Saturday. and I'll drop it off. And I was like, okay, cool. And he drove up here and he called me. He's like, "Do you got your coat and your shoes on?" I was like, "Why?" He's like, "We're going on a shopping spree."
Oh.
This man bought me a case for my computer. Not only did he help save this hard drive that like I needed, and if I didn't have, I'd probably stare at a wall until I died because of how much important files is on it. He also bought me a case, and just for the audience at home, the only case I've had since 2017 for my PC was a case my mother bought me on Wish.com that didn't work. That I had to have the doors pulled off of it because anytime I exported anything, it would like overheat and shut down. So it was a really messed up case. This man bought me a case, and he came over, installed it, fixed everything. Just a one. Joe's a real one. He really is a real one.
For real.
And he's really, he bought me back when I was in Kentucky. He was helping me over the computer, trying to fix everything. And when I replaced one of the motherboards, it turned out I couldn't have a third monitor. And I was like, oh shit, I need that for editing. And he just like got me a curved monitor. And he didn't tell me about it, just gave it to me. But so shout out to Joe, but also Joe streams on Twitch. He plays a lot of games, but last time I was over at his house, I asked him when was the last time he streamed, and he said probably a year ago. And it sucks because he's got a great setup in his basement. He's got a full green screen that goes across half the basement. He doesn't have just a regular webcam. He has a mirrorless Lumix that he uses for it. He has his own server.
Yeah.
He's got the full thing. He's got a full setup. And so I just wanted to shout him out, and maybe some more eyes might, inspire him to maybe start streaming again. So shout out to Joe for, honest to God, making my life so much fucking easier.
Hell yeah, Joe.
Yes,
we love Joe.
First of all, what's Joe's Twitch name?
Disaster Trident. And I'm trying to find the URL for it. We'll just put it in the show notes or something like that.
Oh, it's going on the Linktree. Guys, when I say Joe saved this podcast, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
2 different points with this podcast. Probably the 2 lowest points when I thought we lost episodes in like a never ever to be replicated interview. If we had not gotten those back, I don't know if I would have had it in me to keep going. I genuinely think Joe kind of saved the podcast a couple times on that, because the amount of I was so demotivated when I thought that all that was lost that I didn't know if I was able to kind of pick myself up and get back on it. So like Joe genuinely has saved this podcast from a premature cancellation.
Yeah. He legitimately, and also just like all of the files for Season of the Curse 2, all the files for Puzzle Valley, all the files for Doorman.
Oh my God.
Were in that hard drive. Almost, I promise you, I would have sat at a wall and stared at it until I died. Like that is just how I felt. So that is Disaster Trident on Twitch, DISASTER TRIDENT. Thank you so much, Joe.
Joe is going in Friends of the Pod Linktree.
Absolutely. I love that he took you on a little shopping spree. That's like big father energy.
It really was, and I was such an anxious mess because like whenever people buy me things, I feel so bad, and just he's like, what do you want? You want this $99 case, or you want this $300 case? I was like, just give me the cheapest one you can, please. It's fine. Thank you so much.
Oh.
And then knowing Joe, he was like, $300 case it is.
Oh, dude, there's a Sonic the Hedgehog motherboard where there's like the Sonic the Hedgehog on it. He's like, you want this? I'm like, no, Joe, even though I do want it, but please don't buy it, Joe.
Oh. I just pictured him like holding your hand this whole time.
It would have made me a lot more comfortable, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
No, buddy, you get the Sonic one if you want it.
Can we get ice cream?
Joe is good people.
Yeah.
Joe is good people. Great creative corner.
For real.
100% support.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Well, mine isn't as wholesome, unfortunately, but mine is Hosier because I couldn't think of anything else.
Let's go.
Hosier dropped a song maybe like a week or two ago called Hymn to Virgil. This song alone could be a creative corner because it's one of my newest favorite songs. He was on SNL last night, and I was really, really hoping and praying that he was gonna fucking play this new song, but he played a Christmas song instead. And Tim saw me whip a pen across the entire apartment because I was like, motherfucker. So this song it's based off Dante's Inferno, and it's essentially he finds out his friend has to stay in hell where he doesn't, so he chooses to stay in hell with him, which I think is the premise. If I'm wrong, feel free to yell at me.
No,
but
don't do that.
But some of the lyrics that are just like get you right in the gut. There's this it's repeated on like a lower tone. It's I'd burn the world to bring some heat to you. And then there's another verse that's like, you are the reason I went through it. And then he says, I walked in hell on living feet for you. And oh my God, this song has been on repeat since it came out. I have been waiting for it to drop because of course he does little snippets on like TikTok and shit to get people hyped. And when it came out, it did not disappoint. So if you already know the song, you already know how good it is. If you don't know the song, please go listen to it. And if you don't like it, don't tell me, because I will be upset.
My partner, Nick, Hozier is the favorite artist of that. Like every time there's a gift to get Nick, I'm like, I'll just get them a Hozier vinyl. Like if they love Hozier, anytime, like, oh my God. Every time we think of our like wedding playlist, Hozier's got to be in there multiple times because he's just an excellent lyricist. Just like
oh my God, and genius,
and such a humane artist. Someone who, if it came out that he was a piece of shit, I would be genuinely heartbroken. And I don't know if I'd be able to believe it because just super down to earth person. Nick could tell you so many more things about Hozier than I could, but one of the songs that I know from Hozier that I think about a lot is Cherry Wine. Just for the lyrics of like the way she shows me I'm hers and she is mine. Open hand or closed fist would be fine. The blood is rare and sweet as cherry wine. It's just it's a great song about being in love with someone who's not good for you and who's like actively abusive, and showing the way that someone might describe Hozier, or it's the way I might describe Hozier, is showing the love that is there in the places you wouldn't expect to find it. Because love's everywhere, and you can find it everywhere. So I also really love Hozier.
Yeah. He has another song that's kind of in that same vein called From Eden, and it's from the perspective of the snake.
Ooh.
Tempts Eve with the apple, and that's another one. That's another great one too. The way this man yearns for his love.
Yes, we yearn.
Yes, we need more yearning in 2025.
Just think about that Seinfeld meme. Do you ever yearn? Yearn? Of course I yearn.
You gotta pee?
Of course I pee.
The way that quote is also in the episode today.
Oh yes,
that's funny. Very good. Yeah, we watched the SNL last night, and he did it. I watched the first song, and I was like, yeah, he kind of crushed it.
Yeah, he did Too Sweet, of course.
Yeah, and they have those real quick, like, between commercials where they show kind of the musician setting up, and every time they show him, he just seems like a genuine, humble dude.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, hi, thumbs up.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Plus, he's Irish, so, like...
Yeah.
That's another great thing.
Yeah, the very few like interviews and stuff I've seen with him, I'm just like, I'd hang out with that dude.
Absolutely, I'd be his friend.
Cool. Yeah, hell yeah, great creative corner, Adele.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I guess that leaves me. I don't do this often, but I'm gonna do a music creative corner as well. So there's this band that I have been really into, which is so weird when I talk to people about my interest in this band. They're like, oh, have you been reincarnated? Because there's a band I really like called the Ink Spots. And the reason I like them so much is because, they're featured pretty heavily on the Fallout games. And being obsessed with Fallout, they had a few bangers on there, with the biggest one probably being I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire is probably their biggest banger. Well, I recently was able to track down a vinyl album with that song on it, which now means so much more to me because my amazing fiance asked me if I would like that to be our first dance at our wedding. And especially now, all things considered, current climate out there, I think the song is very appropriate for for everything that's going on. But besides that, I think it means so much to me because I didn't ask for that to be our song. You asked me, and considering, like how much that song means to me and that like music, and for you to ask me if I would like that to be our song, that right there like kind of solidified like, yep, she's the one. Because I was so used to previous relationships being like, yep, it's whatever you want. I just kind of have to go with it. And it was one of the first times somebody was truly like, hey, I know this means a lot to you. So would you like this to be part of like our big day? And I don't think I've ever like expressed to you like how much that really meant to me.
I love that song because when we were I don't know if you remember this, but when we were first talking in COVID and we were only talking via Zoom, you had the Fallout soundtrack on in the background like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that song I had known previously because it would play in the room I was in at Statesville. But I remember I was like singing along to it, and there's a part where he's like, I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart. And then under your breath, you were like, that's what I'm trying to do too. And I was like, that's fucking cute.
So yeah, it honestly, it took about a year for us to find like just that song on vinyl at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And then just like out of the blue, in the span of like 2 days, remember, that local record guy messaged me and was like, hey, I have 2 Inkspots vinyls. Because I messaged him when we moved here and was like, if you ever get Inkspot vinyl, and he's like, how old are you? But he messaged me. He was like, I got 2 Inkspot vinyls. They don't have I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire, but they got a ton of really good Inkspot songs. And then that got me to go on eBay and just on a whim found a dude who had just listed Inkspot's vinyl with that song on it for $5 plus shipping. And it was like the easiest $10 I've ever spent in my life. So yeah, we now have it on vinyl. It's our song. And now when I play Fallout and it just kind of organically comes on the radio, like my little heart smiles.
It's a great song.
It really is. And also listening to Inkspots, I'm starting to learn like their songs are pretty formulaic.
Yeah.
They have
a smooth talker.
A smooth talker. Every song I notice, almost all of them starts with boom, 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 boom. And then it'll go into I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire or We Three or whatever. Yeah, whatever Inkspot song. So yeah, just I'm a big fan of the Inkspots. It touches my old soul, and yeah, it's gonna be part of Adele and I's big day.
Hell yeah.
It makes me very happy, especially because when I first played Fallout 3 was the first game I ever played, and when that intro plays, it just it hits a certain vibe. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can listen to Fallout. I listen to Fallout music all the time, even when I'm not playing.
Fallout New Vegas soundtrack?
There's a Fallout Radio YouTube channel that just 24/7 plays 3, 4, 76 in New Vegas. And they have the Three Dog as the DJ for the New Vegas parts.
That's fair. Mr. New Vegas is a good DJ too, but Three Dog is a classic.
Yeah. I think there's a little Mr. New Vegas in there too. But the part that pisses me off is when they do Fallout 4, they have the DJ from Fallout 4 before you do the mission that gives him confidence. So he's like, there was the Inkspots. And I'm like, dude, no. Like, there's a whole storyline you play to make this dude like a smooth talking, like decent DJ. And they play all the fucking garbage stuff before. Anyway. Did you guys know this is a home movies podcast?
I've heard of it.
I've seen one or two.
I've never seen home movies.
Well, you guys ready to jump into this episode?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mentioned it before. I believe there are kind of three big Coach McGurk quotes that get used fairly regularly by the fan base, and DVD and DVD player is the first of the trifecta of quotes of Coach McGurk. So I do feel we hit a little milestone on this one, gang.
Nice.
The first.
I made an old home movies meme with the SpongeBob Old Reliable, and it was when you respond to any Coach McGurk meme, and it was his three big quotes, and yeah, DVD player is on there.
I'm surprised that's the one that stood out from this episode.
Yeah.
Maybe the way he screams it, like, DVD! DVD! And then I think also the cultural relevance of DVD players in 2002 had a little more to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as relatable in 2025.
Right.
Yeah.
Digital files! Digital file. Yeah, it doesn't hit the same.
I know I said this before we recorded, but yeah, in that same vein, I thought the "like every other woman in my life" quote would have been more popular than DVD player.
I think that one does get thrown around a bit too, but DVD and DVD player are big.
My jaw just dropped.
Why?
Pick
it up.
Well, I looked up the price of a DVD player in 2002.
Oh no, how much?
$300?
$343.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to get another 150 so he could get the DVD player, so that makes sense.
The average price of a DVD player in 1999 was $1,000.
Oh God. How much is it in this year?
$20 if you can find it.
Yeah, I guess $29.99.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I also looked up, not to jump super far ahead, but when they gave him the check for $150, I was like, I wonder how much that would have been now. And it's like $260 now.
Yeah, I was going to say close to $300 probably. Yeah, because when he said $150 for the week, I was like, that's it?
Well, it was 2002.
Exactly. So, well, let's jump into this episode. This one, like so many from season 2, we open up and we're already inside of a movie. Jason is dressed up looks like he's in some kind of hippie outfit. He's got like dreadlocks, a goatee, and a bandana with a peace sign on it. So we see Jason and his character acting, but we hear Brendan directing him. He's explaining that his character is angry because his best friend set him up. Jason, kind of gives him a little anger and growling. No dialogue. Brendan explains to Jason his character's confused, thinking about going back to California and getting a job, which makes him think about his old girlfriend, which makes him laugh. So then you laugh uncontrollably. So he's on the ground laughing, and Brendan reminds him, but then you remember, your girlfriend used to laugh too.
Ooh.
So that makes you cry. So that's when Brendan informs him you hear a noise, and you think about the guy that followed you yesterday. And the whole time, Jason, to his credit, is doing pretty good of kind of giving like emotional reactions without dialogue, but not much going on.
I was confused because the way that the writing was set up, it was like he was just coming up with it on the spot, and obviously he had no ideas. He was just word of, train of thought, just letting it all
stream of consciousness. Yeah.
But I felt like there was a string there. I felt like the story was actually going to come together because Melissa's character comes in and he starts saying like, "Oh, you should hide," and then she hides instead of Jason, and Jason was supposed to hide, and then Jason hides behind a box, and then he gives the same direction to her about her boyfriend. So I was like, "Oh shit, that was your girlfriend and that was your boyfriend." I thought that's what the story was gonna be, and it looked like it was right there, but they're like, "This makes no sense."
And it could have been, that could have been the intention behind it, or kind of where I think it was part stream of consciousness, just kind of throwing stuff out there and seeing what you stumble upon. And maybe what you're going to stumble upon is like, yeah, these two dated and both got into whatever. And who knows? But ultimately they do the scene. And just like Marcin said, I like it. Brendan's like, and then you hide. And between Jason and Melissa, like they're not really sure who he's talking to because it's a little confusing. So yeah, at one point I think Jason finally speaks up and he asks if he can give a little advice in this juncture.
Not to bring it back to when Melissa enters the room.
Yeah.
But when he says, "Think of your think of your ex-boyfriend. She like cocks
Cocks
the
her
gun.
gun.
And like it was very much an innuendo. And I was
Yeah.
like, how come nobody's talking about this?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice it.
Yeah, I feel that was probably definitely like an animator thing.
Yeah.
They also do the thing, the actual Brendan Small brought this up in commentary a few episodes ago, but when he tells Melissa to laugh uncontrollably, her eyes are like crossed, and she's like, ah, ha, 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 ha. So that's when Jason points out it might be easier if someone in the movie speaks, and Brendan explains that it is a story, but kind of has a hard time saying what the story is about. He's not entirely sure. Jason is even like, no, I know what the story is about. It's about, I guess I don't know what the story is about. And that's when Brendan tells both Jason and Melissa, you want to know why there's no dialogue? Fine, I'll tell you. I, Brendan Small, the writer of some 500 movies, has writer's block. Brendan annoyingly asks Jason and Melissa if they're satisfied now. And Jason is like, yeah, actually I am. Thank you. Melissa, how about you? And that's when Melissa points out, like, Brendan, this is a big deal. We have the writer's fair in a couple of days. We're going to be in front of the whole school. So, we got to do something. And Brendan says not to worry about it. He'll figure it out. And that's when Jason has a suggestion that they sing a song about rice. And he even kind of breaks into the song. Rice is nice, but it's just a grain. I like rice, so I'm not insane.
That was my quote. And then I wrote, one idea is better than no idea. Why is Brendan ignoring this?
Right.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, if you're coming to the table with nothing, yeah, even using it as a jumping off point, like do something with it.
My thing is, it's like a writer's fair, but they're performing a play in front of people, but they're making a movie at the same time.
Yeah, writer's fair in general, that plot that felt like a device that's like, well, there needs to be some kind of, what are we working to? If it's just Brendan has writer's block and can't come up with a movie, there's really no skin in the game there. Now we have like a hard deadline. We have, we're performing in front of the school. We have stakes. Stakes are in play now. So, yeah, writer's fair is kind of weird. I mean, I feel like I remember doing talent shows and other things like in front of the entire school, but this like writer's fair thing, I've never experienced anything like that at school.
Same.
Yeah, they cared more about sports than they cared about writing.
Oh, God, ain't that the truth?
Yeah, I think writer's fair in this episode is just a plot device.
Bring on the plot device.
So now we have a transition where it kind of goes from daytime to nighttime at the small residence. Brendan's sitting in his bed with a tape recorder trying to come up with some ideas for a movie. We see the classic stuffed gnome on his bed. That one's kind of a tried and true gnome that we've caught before. I don't know if you also saw, he had a poster on his wall for a movie called Czar Wars, Tzar.
Oh, yeah. I did see that.
So kind of a play on Star Wars, but it's Czar Wars.
I remember pointing that out at one point, but we could only see half of the poster, so I was confused on what it was.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the same poster necessarily or just another one that's spoofing Star Wars, but yeah, we see the full Czar Wars poster. Brendan's having a really hard time keeping his train of thought going. He mentions, idea for a movie. It's about a guy. Wait, no, it's about a kid. No, it's about a dog. And then even says, forget the dog, forget the guy, forget the kid. And that's when we hear Paula tell Brendan, hey, it's time for bed. And Brendan kind of misreads her and is like, okay, good night, have sweet dreams. And so Paula clarifies, no, it's time for you to go to bed. And that's when Brendan has an idea for a movie about a kid who has to go to bed, but his mom goes to bed instead.
It's not a bad idea for a short thing.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, sure, why not? Anything will work. Anything is better than nothing. So, again, he loses his train of thought, and that's when Paula comes in to tell him he should have been in bed an hour ago, and Brendan explains to her that he's got the writer's fair coming up, and he's got some writer's block. She asked if it was a bad case, and Brendan replies, you tell me, and hands her a piece of paper that just says, Scene 1, faded.
I love what she said. She's like, it's kind of tight.
Yeah, it's like it's tight, yeah. Paula gives him advice as someone who's worn the hat of a writer and a teacher. And the advice she gives her students about writer's block is don't get it.
I mean, that's good advice.
Yeah. Brendan makes an offhanded comment about she wears too many hats. Paula tells Brendan to get in touch with his muse. And Brendan even says, I don't know if that's real. And she says it's mystical or mythical? Mythistical.
Real quick, did you guys see the posters on his wall before, like where Paula was when she was walking in?
No.
The King Kong one goes so hard.
I know there was some kind of poster that was something like, yeah, there's the King Kong one. Okay, yeah, so it's supposed to say one of these days I will get organized, but it's like day G, and then organized is like kind of organized.
Fucking King Kong with a fucking gun.
See, that's what I'm saying. It goes
King
so
Kong with
hard.
a gun. Yeah, and not just a gun, but then he's got all the little like dart things on
Yeah.
him, which are the same ones that they use like when Jason, during the guy who turns into a monster when he gives a speech. When he turns into a monster, he gets shot with a bunch of those as well.
I love that his laundry is just all of the same blue jumpsuit
Yes.
pajamas.
It's all
And there is a legitimate slice of pizza just sitting on the floor right here.
also a movie tape and some toilet paper, and it seems like a flat football.
Yes. And I know that's probably a sort of Voltron, because I learned one of the animators was a little bit of a Voltron nerd and liked to put little Voltrons in there when he could.
That's really fun. But I just wanted to point that poster, because when I saw it, I was like, that poster goes so fucking hard.
Yeah, that is a good one. Okay, yeah, Brendan says he doesn't think a muse is real. And that's when Paula tells him that sometimes writing down your dreams can help. So Paula tells him good night and turns off the lights. That's when we see Brendan's eyeballs open and the tape recorder start. He starts laying down an idea for a dream. Idea for dream.
Do you guys write down your dreams?
No. When I do remember my dreams, I try to tell Adele, because it's like once every like 7 or 8 months. I'm like, hey, I remembered a dream last night.
Right. Yeah, I usually tell Tim, and that's my journal.
Yes. And then I have to be like, why is Dream Tim such a dick?
I don't know. I wish I knew. Dream Tim is not nice to me.
I do write down my dreams, but mostly I'll wake up and still be tired, but I'm like, oh, that was a good dream. Let me write that down. And then I spend 3 hours writing it down.
One time I had a dream where I was doing comedy, and I don't remember one joke that I said, but everything was hitting. Like, dude, setups to jokes were getting like huge laughs. And I'm just like, dude, I'm fucking crushing it. Couldn't remember one fucking joke I told that entire dream.
Dude, that's a good story right there. We go into your dream to find out what the jokes were so you can have a perfect set.
Let's go.
I had a dream the other night. This is an example of as to why apparently Dream Tim is mean to me, but me and Dream Tim went to like a festival of some kind, and everybody at the festival were doing like super hard drugs, like really hard drugs. And then I turn around and Tim is nowhere to be found. So like most of the dream is me looking for Tim, and then when I find Tim, he's like in a lawn chair playing his Steam Deck, and he is dripping in sweat. And I'm like, Tim, what are you on right now? And he's like, I'm not on anything. I'm just playing a video game. I'm sweating because of the video game.
So hard.
And like, as I woke, after waking up, I was like, oh, that's really fucking funny. But in the dream, I was like devastated. I was like, I see you play video games every day, and you have never sweat this profusely.
I can't picture what hard drugs are. So in my head, it's like they're doing some hard drugs, and then just cut to a guy. It's like, man, it's really hard to do these drugs.
Like he's trying to smoke a bulb. He's like, where do I light it, dude? This is so hard.
Oh, that tickled me. That was good.
Do you guys have any, like, easier drugs? Oh, shit.
Shit, dude.
I needed that laugh. Thank you. Now, did you say that this was the scene that there was a line that you really liked?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Is it,
Yeah. The line was, and I quote, "If you don't mind, I need to get back to my panicking." And that is something I feel on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
So real.
Those, like, Yeah, those like offhand lines, like, if you can excuse me, I need to go back to painting.
It just reminds me of the McGurk, like, I was crying.
Yeah, exactly. So now we get this cool transition where it goes from Brendan's eyes to Coach McGurk's eyes. They're bloodshot red. They look very tired. It even appears that McGurk has like a 5 o'clock shadow. We hear Melissa asking how long they're supposed to go on for, and Coach is just like mentally not there. She asks again how much longer they need to stretch, and it's already been 45 minutes, and Coach kind of snaps out of it very confused, and he asks Melissa, like, what are you saying? And Melissa says, we're done stretching. He asks her again what she's saying, and she again explains herself that they're all stretched and they don't know what to do next. And Coach is like, what does that mean? And Melissa seems a little worried and explains, like, we don't know what to do next. And so that's when Coach asks Melissa who she is, and that's when Melissa asks Coach what the matter is and if he is on a bender. Coach is like, where did you hear that word? And says, I heard it from you, Coach. And he denies being on a bender. So that's when Coach McGurk explains he hasn't slept in 4 days now. Melissa asks how come, and Coach gets a little testy and asks, like, what kind of question is that? He explains he can't sleep. He has insomnia. And that's when Melissa asks him if he tried laying down in his bed and closing his eyes. Coach gets very defensive, and yeah, he kind of blows up on her.
I need to stand on my soapbox real quick for Melissa, because this was uncalled for.
Yeah.
Because, not to jump ahead, but Brendan asks the exact same question, and McGurk just goes, yeah, I tried that. Whereas Melissa asks that question, and he fucking pops off on this little girl.
Hey, insomniac!
I'm just like, Melissa is constantly getting, like, screamed at by McGurk for no reason whatsoever. She was just concerned. So my heart goes out to the poor girl.
She was just trying to fix
She was just trying to help him.
like every other woman in my life.
Oh my gosh, I feel like McGurk was projecting there for a minute.
Oh, absolutely, he was.
I was gonna say, I think I think we all know why he's mean to Melissa and not Brendan.
Yeah. I was just trying to be
No.
facetious. Is that the word? No. Cut that out.
Cut that out. Cut that out.
I don't know what facetious means.
I will say, growing up with someone who has insomnia, my cousin Ed has major insomnia. This line of questioning pisses him off every single time. He's, oh man, maybe if you just weren't on that phone. And he's like, the death stare he gives me. It's like, I'm on the phone because I can't fucking sleep.
And why do people act like insomnia only came around in times of the smartphone? Like people haven't had it for literally decades.
Oh, it's crazy. And also having a partner who has insomnia. This is the way that they yell. The other night they could not sleep for the life of them, and I was like, "Oh, I have an idea." And they're like, "What's the idea?" I'm like, "I'm gonna say one number, and then you say the next number, and we'll go back and forth." And they didn't know
how long did that last.
They got to 72. And
oh shit!
And then they said, "Why are we doing this?" I was like, I thought like counting might help, and they just fuck you. Fuck you.
I'm honestly surprised you got to 72. I think I would have gotten to like 30 and I would have been like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was very pleased with myself that I got them to 72. That made me, and even when they were like, why are we doing this? I was like, 73.
Oh my god.
Insomnia is real.
That's so fucking funny. It really is.
Well, great news. According to Melissa, all you gotta do to go to sleep is lay down and go to sleep.
Oh, dude, but I felt for McGurk because Ed has lost out on so many things because he could not sleep and could not get up the next day. And the amount of people who just say it's like his fault because they don't believe in insomnia and believe it's not real. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, like, just close your eyes. Just maybe close your eyes.
Has Has he tried melatonin?
He has. Everything under the sun he's tried. Everything.
Yeah.
Nick tries melatonin. It gives them leg kickies. And that means that they kick me when they're trying to sleep. And not a fan of that.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work for people.
It really don't.
It gives me weird dreams.
I was going to say, I've tried to take sleep aids before, and yeah, they usually give me very weird dreams.
I'll accept the weird dreams, but have you seen The Hat Man?
The Hat Man?
The Hat Man,
No.
You see if you take like a whole bunch of melatonin. You have to take like a bunch and you can see the Hat Man. Don't do it.
Oh, shit. I thought the Hat Man was for, what's the word I'm thinking? Sleep paralysis.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just a baby.
I'm just a baby. I can pay you in blocks.
Oh, God.
I don't got money. But they've tried sleeping aid. So just sleeping aid doesn't work a lot of the time, especially for people with insomnia. I think that's the problem, that there's no like actual cure unless you... Like, even Ed, he went and got a sleep study done, very much like this episode, and they said, like, oh, yeah, it must be psychological. And, yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes, you are the scientist here.
Thanks for that.
Did they give him $150 at least?
No, he had to give them $150.
Are you fucking... Oh, my God.
Welcome to America.
I'm about to check out real quick. All right.
All right. Well... The next scene, we're in the nurse's office. Coach is laying down talking to Nurse Kirkman.
She's back.
Yeah, Coach has his shirt off, and I found it funny is Coach still, at this point in the show, has his cow tattoo from that cheese that he likes.
Yeah, but I didn't see the cheetah banana.
Cheetah banana tattoo is gone.
He got it removed?
I guess so.
Do you think it was like copyright situation as to why they couldn't?
I don't...
Or maybe they forgot about it?
I was just told that at some point McGurk loses his tattoos. It's just something that happened with the character design.
That's fair.
It's something that happens when you grow up.
Yeah, your tattoos fall off.
Your skin falls off.
Your kid tattoos fall off and your adult tattoos come in.
I wish. Yeah.
Dude, what if my adult tattoos were just taxes?
Well, the nurse tells Coach she doesn't see anything wrong with him physically. And that's when the coach says, well, what about this? And he holds up what I'm assuming is a urine sample.
Ew.
But there are straight up like parasites floating in it.
I don't think it's that animation trick. It's like, what about this?
Yeah.
Right. But this is the thing, though. He says, what about this? And he's like, this can't be good. And then he asks her if she's ever seen the movie African Queen. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So African Queen was a movie filmed in the 1950s in the Congo, and it starred Humphrey Bogart. And two things. One, Humphrey Bogart said when they were filming that movie, anytime you'd go in the water, you would come out with leeches on. Also, there was a scene in the movie where his character had to have leeches on him, and there's a close-up shot of a leech on skin, and Humphrey Bogart's like, nope, that ain't me, boss. Like, so it was like a stunt double.
Huh.
But that movie, in two different ways, has references to leeches.
Is that the one where he has to pull the boat through the water?
Yes,
Okay.
The African Queen.
Yeah.
I've never seen that one.
It's old.
Yeah.
I thought it was made up for the show when he said it. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. No, it was an actual movie filmed in 1951 in the Congo with Humphrey Bogart. So I think that was kind of where H. John Benjamin was going with the joke, was that there was some kind of like leech or leech-like thing, I guess, in his urine. So that's when the nurse points out that there's children outside. And Coach is like, that's fine. Let them come in. I don't give a damn. That's when the coach makes an offhanded remark to the nurse. He's like, listen, you can come on to me all that you want. Gonna say no every time.
Right.
And the nurse even kind of sarcastically, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry I got carried away like that. She then recommends a sleep center at the university that does all kinds of research, and maybe they can help him. And Coach says it kind of feels like a brush off, and nurse reiterates, nope, it's a referral. So now we cut to a scene of Brendan talking to Mr. Lynch, and Mr. Lynch is explaining that he cannot give Brendan additional time just because he's not ready. Mr. Lynch says you can't change the schedule for your writing fair just because you're not ready. Be like if I changed the date of the art fair because your painting wasn't ready. Or I delayed the state fair because you didn't have the world's largest pig. Or the date of the health fair because you didn't have an STD. And then this one was my favorite. Or the date of the sociology affair because you didn't bring a family that has fallen through the cracks of the very system that was supposed to protect them.
That one was too real. That one hit in a different way when Mr. Lynch said it.
That one probably hit in 2002, and gee golly gosh, does it hit hard in 2025.
Let me just salute Mr. Lynch.
So Brendan asks if he can have a week, and Lynch is like, no. A day, no. An hour, no. A minute, okay. Instead of going on at 1:30, you'll be going on at 1:31. And I think Brendan was even like, see, that wasn't so hard. And Mr. Lynch was like,
Mr. Lynch is a prankster.
He is. He pulls a little prankerino at the end that I'm like, Mr. Lynch, that's not very nice. So after that, we're at the sleep center. And one of the assistants is asking McGurk if he understood the waiver that he signed. And Coach is like, no, not really. I signed it, but... And then just kind of pushing past that, they're like, okay, we're going to study your brain waves. And they put like a big helmet that looks like it's conducting electricity. And Coach even points out that it's pretty bright in the room. And they explain, we got to keep the lights on. And then they start like strapping him to the bed. At one point, one of the assistants holds up what looks like a little jock strap. And he even makes a comment like, this should fit snugly.
That's what he said. He's like, can I take this home?
That was the same item that McGurk is like, can I take this home? Yeah, it looked like a little jock strap.
I didn't know what a jock strap was. For a long time as a kid, all I could remember it was from 8 Crazy Nights where Adam Sandler's like, you gotta eat that guy's jock strap. I'm like, what the fuck is a jock strap?
I still don't know. Is it to hold the cup?
Yeah, I that's how I know a jock strap because I play baseball.
Why would he need a jock strap for this experiment? Are they...
Because when you're sleeping, your jock starts moving all over the place.
I don't know why they'd make him wear it. Just maybe so they could get like electrodes on like his legs or something. I don't know.
Is it a jock strap or a thong? Aren't jock straps like your butt is kind of like out?
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of the same as a thong with like the one, it appears it's got like the one piece that kind of goes in the butt. But yeah, I guess the only difference is it's got the little triangle of fabric on the front.
I don't know nothing about nothing.
Yeah, but the fact that it's a tiny little jock strap and he makes a comment that it should fit snugly, I was like, oh, okay.
Snugly? What is that implying?
I don't know.
Snuggle his jock.
So we pull back to see that now we've got several sensors and monitors all over Coach McGurk, and one of his feet is like throbbing and purple. Coach asks how he's supposed to sleep with all this stuff on, and the female assistant is even like, well, that's for us to worry about now, isn't it? So Coach points out he doesn't think he's getting blood to one of his legs, and the male assistant asks if he's ever had electrodes put on his face.
The first time I saw this scene, and when they put the electrode on one of his eyeballs, that shit freaks me out. I can't do eyeball shit.
Yeah, that was a bit much, and then even later on when he pulls it out.
Yeah, no.
It was funny because the male assistant's like, you ever had electrodes on your face? And I think McGurk is like, no. And the male assistant says, well, here goes. Welcome to town. He just
The male assistant was my doodle this week.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
He's got a beard.
I'm not 100%. So no, besides everyone who's like traditionally cast in this episode, there were no like additional voices besides just Mr. Lynch is always credited as an additional voice, and then Jen Kirkman for Nurse Kirkman. I believe, pretty confident, 99%, the female assistant is voiced by Melissa. You can kind of hear her voice in it.
Yeah, it sounded very familiar.
I think the male voice is Brendan. Not 100% positive on that one. But just when he was talking, I was getting very slight hints of Dwayne, and Brendan does the voice of Dwayne too. So that's why I'm assuming, but it could be Bill Broadus. It could be, I mean, who knows really, but it's kind of hard because I was looking on IMDb and I'm like, sleep clinic assistant guy. So, and a lot of the actors that do multiple voices are just like credited like Brendan and Perry and additional voices. So we pull back now and we reveal that one of the electrodes is directly in Coach's eye. That's when Coach sits up and he even says, he's like, can I ask a question? Like genuinely, is this candid camera? Because it feels like I'm getting pranked. The male assistant says they're just students and they're trying their best. He says, I have a suggestion. Go get someone who knows what they're doing. The assistant points out he's probably a little irritable because he hasn't slept. Coach agrees and says, but also maybe you don't know what you're doing. The female assistant says, okay, you're all set. We're going to leave you alone now, and we'll see you in 12 hours.
The world is made of paper and string.
So the next scene we have, it's a fantasy-like scene with Paula and a Fabio-type dentist.
Yeah.
I did write this down.
Paula is asking what is right and wrong anyway when it comes to love, and they should just run away together. The dentist says yes, that she needs to free him from this Novocaine called marriage. He then confesses that whenever he cleans her gums, I try to look all the way down her throat, into her soul.
That one threw me off. If my dentist is staring down at my gums, I'll freak out.
Well, we pull back to reveal that this is Paula, and she's writing what appears to be like a romance novel. She's got a glass of wine and a candle on the table, and Paula says, oh, this is good. I mean, maybe as far as romance novels are concerned, it is, but oof.
I feel like it's the fantasy. I mean, I think we've all been there where we're looking at our art going like, oh, this is great. And then the next time we look at it, we're like, oh, no.
Oh, 100%.
I rarely look at my own art, and I'm like, this is great. I'm like, this is acceptable.
The amount of notes in my phone of like poems and songs that I just think of, and then I go back, I'm like, oh, Adele, what were you thinking? I relate to this for sure.
The amount of times I had to rewrite a scene in a script or in Puzzle Valley or anything because I look back at it after a day and being like, oh, I was just sad when I was writing it. Let me just backspace, backspace, backspace.
Like, oh, I must have been going through it today.
I'm in my right mind now.
Well, in the moment, you're like, this is where creativity is born, in my sadness. And then you write it down, and then you come back to it and you're like, oh no. What have I done?
let me just reel this back in real quick.
Let me do some more processing first.
Yeah.
The party scene for Season of the Curse 2, I had to rewrite because I was just sad when I wrote it, and I was like, oh no. We're going to backspace real quick before anyone can read this.
I feel that.
Well, funny enough, after we see Paula at the typewriter saying, oh, this is good, we have a quick scene of Brendan waking up from a dream and then writing it down with a huge smile on his face, also saying like, ooh, yeah, this is good. So immediately next scene, we're at a playground and Jason and Melissa are talking. Melissa is saying she's not going to hurt his feelings. And Jason is pointing out he's very fragile. So I think it's pretty apparent that they're talking about Brendan. Jason even tries to do that like, I think I know him a little bit better than you do, Melissa.
He's just jealous.
Yeah. That's when Brendan walks up and says that he tapped into a very creative part of his brain last night. And I love this part because Jason is like, did you use a drill? And Brendan replies, no, I used a dream.
Bars.
And Jason was even like, Brendan, that was very poetic. And then points out that they used to use drills to drill holes in people's heads to let the evil spirits out.
Which was a great fact.
Yeah. Brendan continues by saying that he wrote down his dream, and it's very creative to write down your dream. Melissa asks if he got a good scene out of it, and Brendan asks, did I? Listen to this. Fade in. A man with an ice cream body enters a bicycle throwing contest, so he swims across the Pacific Ocean with a typewriter tied to his fingers while being chased by little sharks wearing knapsacks. He then plays catch with his moose, and at this point, Jason and Melissa cut him off. Although Jason does say he likes the little sharks, Melissa points out that the scene doesn't make any sense, and she also points out that the writer's fair is in 2 days. Melissa is obviously very concerned and says the scene's not going to work for the writer's fair, and Brendan says, okay, the dream stuff was just an experiment I was working on, and I'm going to make the best scene you've ever seen. No pun intended.
I have to say something. So this is for all 3 of their grades, and Brendan is the one with the writer's block. Why don't the other 2 try to help and come up with ideas? They've done it before.
That's a good question. I think they're just kind of, as good of a student as Melissa is, I think she's like, well, it's the writer's fair. Probably the writer/director of the 500 films we've made is going to take the reins on this one.
And Jason already came up with an idea and got ignored, so...
Yeah. That's true.
I will say, though, if David Lynch heard Brennan's dream, he'd be like, perfect! That sounds amazing!
Brilliant!
Make the sharks talk backwards.
You reject your own nose.
Because it represents the value of commercialism.
All right, that was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Very fun, though.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Run it back.
The Grinch. All right.
So the next scene opens up on McGurk's very tired eyes. They're like crusty at this point. His pupils are like getting bigger and smaller. So it's apparent we still have not slept in some time. This is when Brendan is pointing out that everything is stupid and he can't write anything. McGurk is just kind of sitting there comatose hugging a soccer ball. And at one point, Brendan even kicks the ball and it hits McGurk in the side of the head. And McGurk like barely reacts. Coach points out that he now hasn't slept in 6 days. And Brendan asks if he tried closing his eyes. Coach raises his voice a little bit and is just like, yeah, I tried that. But did not yell at Brendan nearly as much as he yelled at Melissa. So Coach points out because he's so tired, he's having a really hard time keeping his train of thought. So while he's talking, he might just... and that's when he looks like he falls asleep with his eyes open. He just stares off and he starts drooling. Brendan gets his attention and Coach doesn't even remember the conversation they're having. He asks Brendan what he's doing. Brendan says, I'm talking to you, I guess. And Coach asks him why. He reminds Coach they were talking about his writer's block, and Coach begins to give him advice about taking a scene from a famous movie, and then again loses his train of thought. So Brendan gets him back on track, and then he continues to say, yeah, take a famous scene and just change the names around. Instead of using the name Vito Corleone, just call him Marty. And Brendan points out that's stealing. And Coach agrees and says, that's why you don't call it The Godfather, Brendan. Call it Grandfather.
I got similar advice on this when I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, I'm just struggling with dialogue right now. He's like, the best writing is just stealing. Go on YouTube, look up a video of me flirting with my friend, and then just find the video with the lowest views, and that's real, baby. Just steal that dialogue.
Oofty goof.
I recently approached a business owner about potentially doing a comedy show at their business, and he had hired like musical acts before, but never comedy. And when I told him I was a comedian and I would like to do like maybe a comedy show, he's like, yeah, how does that work? Do you guys just like cover other comedians' jokes, or? And I had to be like, no, we write our own.
Oh man, how do you not know?
So you just do like someone else's jokes, right?
You just go hot pocket, and then that's fun, right?
And then you hold for applause, and then that's that. Okay, so now we're back in Paula's like fantasy romance novel. It's funny, she's like, her character laid, sat on the bed.
Yep. So real.
I've been there.
I don't know how to spell this word.
Not even Google knows what I'm trying to say here.
I'm not paying for Grammarly. She sat.
Autocorrect has killed my spelling.
Genuinely. That was me trying to figure out autocorrect at the same time.
So we have Paula's character sitting on the bed with Lockwood sleeping next to her. Just before falling asleep, Lockwood had talked about a trip to the Grand Canyon, a romantic getaway. Suddenly the phone rang and Sheila thought maybe it was the hotel manager calling to kick out the adulterers. But when she answered, she realized it was just room service. She wakes up Lockwood by kissing him on the dimpled chin. And that's when we pull back again to show Paula writing the story on her typewriter saying, oh, this is good.
So she wrote, so like how you were saying, like if you write something when you're sad and then you go back later and you're like, uh-oh, I think she was just horny and she was just writing this in the midst of passion.
She's horny, lonely, and drunk. That's Paula.
Yep, the trifecta.
And it seems like, too, there's some kind of weird give and take with Brendan and Paula. Like, when Brendan was really struggling with his writer's block, that's when Paula was, like, kind of really having all these great, like, inspirations for her story. And then at the end, when, spoiler, they inevitably just do Jason's Rice song, and they kind of get their groove back, as it were. Now Paula is struggling with her ability to write. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of like a back and forth with them.
She had to take the brain cell for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Siphoned the power.
Well, we're back at the sleep clinic, and Coach is ripping off all the equipment that's attached to him, and he's saying that he's out. He's done. The assistants are really encouraging him to stay because they're like, you're a great study. You haven't slept in so long. And Coach tells him he's done. And if they want a guinea pig, they should get a rabbit. Or better yet, get a guinea pig. The assistants thank him for coming anyway and tell him if you ever reconsider, please return. Coach says forget it, and he's out of there. But he did ask if he could keep these, and he holds up what looks like the jockstrap. So they say sure, and then present him with a check. Coach seems a little confused as to why he's getting a check, and they explain to him that because they were able to study him, they are going to pay him for his services. Coach sees that the check is for $150 and is suddenly interested in possibly sticking around. He asks if the money keeps coming if they continue to study him, and they say, yeah, that's kind of how this works. So Coach tells them, well, let's get going. Hook me up. We have this very quick scene now where Brendan is reading Paula's romance novel at the typewriter, and he's saying, like, hey, this is very good. And he starts writing down his kind of own thing based off of Paula's writing.
Uh-oh.
That's it. That was my exact thought when he's like, this is good. I was like, no.
Well, the very next scene, we cut to Brendan, Jason, Melissa. Brendan is giving them the new scripts. Melissa even asks, so Jason is playing a dentist, and Brendan says, yeah, and you're playing the female.
Yeah.
Jason in this scene. I can't with Jason.
Yeah, when this scene started going, I had to like walk to the other side of the room and watch from over there because I really secondhand embarrassment kills me, and Jason was I was no, don't do this in front of the whole school. No.
First of all, Melissa asks, hey, shouldn't this say root canal? And Brendan says, no, that's love canal. That's a different thing.
Uh-oh.
Melissa asks if she really has to kiss Jason passionately for 5 minutes. And that's when Jason says, pucker up.
And
Wait,
Jason.
what did he say? He said,
Brendan says, it's 5 minutes stage time, so it's probably actually closer to 3.5 minutes. And Melissa again pushes back and says they cannot do this on stage.
so yes, Melissa, yes.
Jason's over there like, hey, I'm a fighter and a lover.
He said, puck her up, sweet lips.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious.
Brendan says he'll clean it up, and Jason asks Melissa if they want to start practicing.
Hate this. I hate this. Jason was doing great this episode. He was doing really good this episode.
He was. Yeah.
Melissa says no and points out that they're going to be live in front of the entire school in just a couple of hours, and they still do not have a solid script. Brendan tells him not to worry about it. He's a writer. He'll fix it. And I think this is the second or third time Jason's like, we should run away.
That's so real. That's usually my first thought that pops into my head is just, let's run away. Like, it's like, yes, Jason, run. Let's go in the car.
Yeah. Well, Brendan says no running away, but he's going to have to do some tinkering. And that's when Jason asks him, you have to pee?
That got me.
That was the one that made you laugh when we were watching.
Yeah.
Well, Brendan reiterates tinkering. And Melissa, still concerned, points out that they're going to be live in front of the whole school, Brendan. Brendan tries to reassure her again and says he'll fix it. And Jason points out that if he doesn't get a good grade, he's going to have to go to summer school. And I love this because Melissa points out that Jason already has to go to summer school. And Jason kind of shoots her a look and he's like, I'm trying to motivate Brendan. So Brendan, to reassure him, tells Jason, hey, you're not going to have to go to summer school. And Melissa points out again, like, no, he does have to go to summer school. Regardless.
Based. Got him.
Wait a second. Are they in the same grade?
He's a year younger than them.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So is he going to be held back? Or...
Well, that is a very interesting question because if he's a year younger than them and a different class than them, why is he a part of this project to begin with?
Yeah. Again, this could be like a
school-wide
all grade.
thing.
Yeah. Because she said it's going to be in front of the whole school. So you got to think it's
That's true.
everybody. Maybe every day is a different class. Who knows?
I guess I'm just confused by like the start of this show. Why did they even make him like younger than them?
I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean it's just by a year. Maybe that's to justify why he's not on their soccer team. I'm not really sure, but yeah, for whatever reason, yeah, they're just not in the same class. But if they're a grade apart, again, I think we skirt around this conversation every time because we're like, well, in the class trip, why is he going? And we're like, well, maybe it was like a full school thing. It wasn't just, their class. I don't know. I don't know. For whatever reason in the story, yeah, it seems like, because they say during the news article thing that they're 8, 8, and 7, implying that Jason is 7 years old. I don't know.
I don't think the animators know.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. All I know is the next scene, we're outside the gymnasium. We have a sign that says, today's the writer's fair. Tomorrow is the sociology affair?
What's that mean?
Sociology fair. Good question.
I looked up sociology.
Right.
Isn't that what Mr. Lynch said? It's like if we
It's the scientific study of human society.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you're right, Mars. He's like if we delay the sociology fair because you didn't have a family that fell through the very cracks of the system that was bound to protect them.
Right. That's fair.
Maybe because that was in the dialogue with Mr. Lynch, the animators are like, we're going to make tomorrow the sociology affair. So I keep saying sociology affair.
Yeah.
Sociology fair.
I want to go to the sociology fair. I wonder what that's all about.
I want to have an affair with sociology.
And then did you guys see, too, that we see a re-elect Thackeray in 2002 poster?
Oh, 2002.
Yeah.
How I yearn for you.
How I yearn for post 9/11, 2002. Thackeray, the last time we talked about Thackeray, I was like, he's dead if he never comes back. But I guess in order to get around that and not killing kids, the animators like, let's just put a poster up in the background, tell them that they're in Arizona, say it's fine.
Yeah, he's thriving.
There you go. Well, we get our first scene of the Writers' Fair. I'm going to play for us now.
This is a poem we wrote. Yeah, Perry and I wrote a poem. Yeah. And we're going to read it for you right now. Right now. For the Writers' Fair. Okay. Ready? Okay. Okay, sit down. Oh, wait a second. We were supposed to have a podium. Yeah, we're supposed to. We requested a podium.
Requested a podium?
Thank you. Okay. That's better. This poem is called. When we wrote it together. We wrote it together. It's a poem called We Hate Fenton. By Walter. Ready? Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
We hate Fenton because Fenton sucks. We hate Fenton so much. Fenton smells bad and Fenton sucks. Fenton, we hate you. You're an idiot and I hope you turn blue because you can't breathe. Fenton.
Wow, aren't they great? Aren't they great?
Hate.
And for Walter and Perry.
We're not finished.
Oh, yes, you were. Thank you. Next time.
James,
Next time. Okay,
James.
good.
I want to be in that recording studio when they filmed that because they were just improvising and trying to say the same thing at the same time.
Yes, 100%. I just love the end. Like, Fenton, hate, Fenton, hate.
Also, I love that Brendan has been like pulling his hair out this entire time trying to write something great, and then Walter and Perry go up and do that. And then, I don't think it's that deep.
That's such a. I think there's a whole. There's like a whole episode of South Park about this where they're like, we gotta beat the third graders in the school program or whatever, and they go all out and they've got like people like doing flips and little like confetti cannons, and then at the end the third graders are like, Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It's like just. Yeah, it's that thing of getting in your head so much as a kid and being like, no, this is so huge and so important. Half our grade and this, that, and the other. And yeah, two kids walk up and be like, we wrote this poem called Fenton Sucks.
We hate Fenton. What? So I don't really watch South Park. What grade are they supposed to be in South Park?
I think in South Park they're in 5th grade.
Okay.
4th grade or 5th
Yeah,
grade.
I think it's
All right.
4th grade.
Yeah. Well, and then they actually have a season where they all get into 5th grade.
Oh yeah,
The 5th grade.
yeah. And who are we
So-
gonna beat, class? The
The
homeless.
Oh. I was going to say the actual thing, but I missed out.
Sorry.
Sorry,
I'm
I
so
didn't
sorry.
think this guy.
We blew it.
Say, edit it so I do say, the homeless.
Should we do a take 2? We'll do a clean take.
Yeah.
And then who do we hate?
The
homeless.
All right.
We did it.
What were you saying, Marcin?
I love in an animation when they have a crowd filled with a bunch of random characters, because guaranteed they have cloned like 6 or 7 of the same character design and just moved them around.
Oh, yeah. Can we bring up the audience? Because there was they were all smiling, which I appreciated. But I saw one kid was faced the different direction.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a good shot at the end. I think when he tells them all to go home. So after that, we see Mr. Lynch introduce a one-man play written and starring Natasha. Vishkevich. It's so funny because Mr. Lynch tries 7 times to pronounce it. He never gets a full pronunciation out, and he's like, "Did I say that right?" So Natasha comes out wearing she's wearing an all purple dress. She's singing to a portrait of her mother about being home, and I got beat by the horse and it was foaming at the mouth and just all this stuff. Well, while that's going on in the background, we see Brendan pacing, and Mr. Lynch is telling them that he's up next, right? Mr. Lynch asks Brendan if he's nervous, and Brendan says no. And Mr. Lynch says, well, you should be, because this counts for 100% of your grade.
What a trickster.
He's a funny guy.
Brendan, obviously concerned, is like, what? And Mr. Lynch is like, I'm just kidding.
Just joshing you.
And Mr. Lynch and Brendan both remark how great Natasha is. Oh, as well as the piano player. Said the piano player is really good. I think when Mr. Lynch said he was kidding, he's like, ha ha ha. Brendan's like, ha 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 ha. Now we have a quick scene with Coach McGurk, and he's struggling to stay awake, telling himself he can get through one more session. He can finally buy himself that DVD player.
DVD player.
Coach is struggling to stay awake and almost encourages himself for the sake of the DVD. DVD. He dozes off slightly and then wakes himself up saying he needs more coffee. Looks out the window wondering where all the noise went. He looks at construction equipment. He's like, start digging up the street again. So yeah, it was pretty apparent there was a lot of factors going into Coach having insomnia besides just not being able to sleep. Sounds like there was a lot of road construction going on and stuff like that. And now a lot of those factors have kind of fallen away, and his insomnia is just kind of catching up with him, and he's finally to that point where he can start sleeping, but gotta get that DVD player, man.
Get that DVD player. I do talk about how I don't understand how the DVD player came away from this episode being the iconic line, but this scene was. The note I wrote down during this scene was McGurk is a great character. Because I was just laughing at him yelling at the construction site, like, keep making that noise!
Yeah.
Right.
So we cut to the writer's fair, and it's Brendan, Jason, and Melissa's turn. Brendan tells them, forget the script. And Jason says, yeah, let's run away.
Yeah, 100%.
Brendan tells them, everyone just start humming. So they hum, and he starts singing a song about rice. The very same song Jason sang at the beginning of the episode.
That got brushed off.
Yeah.
Yep.
I admit I have empathy for Jason in this moment. Especially when you have a good idea and no one wants to hear you out.
So at one point, Brendan tells the piano player, hit it! And they proceed to do a pretty disorganized song about rice. At one point, they're just kind of jumping around saying different kinds of rice. So we have a quick cut back to Paula and her romantic fantasy. Paula, as Sheila, is looking over the Grand Canyon. She refers to it as big and vast and grand. We're starting to see, the trains coming off the tracks here. She's kind of losing her similes and metaphors here. Lockwood took some pictures and then realizing he could never show them to anyone, tossed them into the canyon below and then remarked, "That's us. We're like a disposable falling camera into a canyon that's constantly careening off things." And as we pull back to reveal Paula writing, and she seems like she's getting a little bit of writer's block herself, not very impressed with her own work.
Brennan took back the brain cell. I will admit, though, like, she had... there was something there in that scene. If she just clung to the... like, the idea of him not being able to show anyone the pictures, so just throwing it into the Grand Canyon, like, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Poor Paula.
Well, we cut back to the writing fair. Brendan, Jason, and Melissa singing about rice. In the end, a big number with Brendan standing on the backs of Jason and Melissa. I don't know if you guys caught it, but at the very end, Jason kind of jumps up and is like, "Yay for rice!" and like knocks Brendan off of the little pyramid.
He was so happy his idea got to be used.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at one point, it does show Mr. Lynch, and he's kind of got like one eyebrow up, like, "What's this?"
What's all this, then?
I will say the wild rice part was pretty clever, and I enjoyed that part the most.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, the wild rice, when he's like, wild rice. And he's like, he pops in from like outside of the frame and he starts at like the bottom corner and then like the bottom and then kind of the side. The last pop in, he straight up comes from the top of the frame
Yeah.
down, which I thought was really funny.
Improv is probably the scariest form of creativity for me because you do improv and then you start throwing everything at the wall, spaghetti. You're trying to see what sticks. And so a lot of things don't stick, and that can be very nerve-wracking, but also I will say some of the best ideas has come out of improv. No spoilers, but just like some of the jokes that we've done for Puzzle Valley 2000 that has been strictly improv has been so fucking good and so funny.
When improv is done well, it's one of my favorites. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's so hard to believe it's just off the cuff.
Yeah.
So in this picture, this is the audience from the Writers' Fair. Right off the bat, like a lot of the front row there are people, and you can even see them, they're wearing their like blue, like when they have soccer games and some of them have to wear like blue vests and other color vests. So these three right off the bat are definitely like soccer players that are usually on the team. This little girl with the red hair and the green, is that Allison, who kept running away during class trip?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so the funny thing Marcin said about like, oh yeah, you're going to have pretty much like 6 versions of the same model. You've got the kid right here. His eyes are like super spread apart on the top of his head. He's got the blonde hair. He's got the orangish shirt, the blue thing. If you look directly behind him in the back row, that looks like the exact same person. And then just to the right of them is also the exact same person.
There's even another one of the girl who keeps running away. You can see her hair in the crowd and one of her eyeballs.
Yep, that would be right there. And then a 4th blonde kid with the eyes spread far apart.
If you see the front row red hat, there are 2
Yes.
same characters but blue hats in the background,
shit.
left and right.
So many
Blue
twins in this school.
Blue
Yeah.
hat. And then there's just the top of the red hat. There's somebody wearing one of those umbrella hats. And then there's another one right up here.
There's a kid up in the bleachers that's over near the W that almost looks a little bit like Jason peeking out
This right
Yeah.
Does, yeah.
with
Yeah.
different hair. Yep.
Yep. And then this girl, who is, I believe actually this girl too, has this weird purple hair. She's like not quite a Melissa type.
Oh, same umbrella hat in the top right corner.
Yep. So we're looking at the same, essentially, like Marcin said, probably 5 or 6 students. And then we got some duplicates and some revises and stuff like that. So, but yeah, fun little, I think I'm going to take a screenshot of that and maybe throw it up. And
There's one kid you don't even see his face. You just see the same shock of like purple hair throughout the crowd. You don't even see his face at all.
yeah, I see exactly where you're saying.
Oh,
right there.
yeah.
It's like a wave of purple hair. Boom, boom, boom.
If this was an ocean, that would be a sea monster.
So there you go. So now we see Mr. Lynch as the MC come out, thank everybody for coming to the Writers' Fair, and then say, all right, good night, before correcting himself and saying, I mean, everybody get back to class. Now. So now we have the final scene, and it's Coach McGurk at the sleep clinic. And honestly, like that first shot of his face, he looked dead. Like he looked just absolutely dead.
I did write down, oh my god, McGurk is dead.
Oh, his eyes.
I have like permanent dark circles, so I can relate to that, but holy shit. That looks like a dead body.
Yeah. He looks straight dead.
Oh my god, I'm looking down his throat. I can see his soul.
What's it look like?
It's malformed and malnourished and maladaptive.
The assistants are trying to wake up McGurk, telling him he can't stay there anymore because he's cured. You're sleeping again. Coach pushes back and says it's just dozing, which is different. And they tell him he can't be at the sleep study program anymore if he keeps falling asleep. Coach tells him he needs $150 more for that DVD player. DVD player!
DVD!
So he falls asleep. The assistants look at him with a little compassion. They're like, oh. They even say he was such a good subject.
He was.
Before the male assistant says, yeah, I better call the police.
Time to call the police. Like you.
Just let him take a little nap. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been torturing the man. Let him sleep.
Yeah. There's no analysis while he's sleeping and he has to be awake. I don't believe that. Most sleep studies are while you're asleep.
Right. Plot holes. Plot holes in the writer's fair. Well, and that's season 2, episode 11, titled Writer's Fair.
Wait, was it titled Writer's Fair or Writer's Block?
Oh, shit. And that was season 2, episode 11, titled Writer's Block. Now we're going to do grades, and we're going to start with Jason.
So, for Jason, like I said at that one part, I think Jason was doing really well this episode. He came up with the rice. He came up with a really fun idea. Also, that fun fact about people drilling a hole into people's brains to let all the evil spirits out. That's a really fun fact.
Yeah.
And it's true. And then Bren was just like, I'm going to ignore that. I was a little annoyed by that because it was actually a really fun fact and true. And also, when he was talking to Melissa about Brennan, and he's like, he's sensitive. And I think I know him a little bit more than you. And I thought he was on track to get a nice, good episode for him today. But then the way he was like, pucker up, sweet lips, which is honestly very funny, but it did make me scream while I was watching it. I was like, no, don't do that. You're not only making me uncomfortable, but you're making Melissa uncomfortable.
Poor Melissa. I just want to give the girl a hug.
Honestly, she didn't deserve it. I don't think I should penalize him too much, but I did give him an A-.
Hey, that's not bad.
No, not at all. I think that's a good grade.
Yeah, I agree. Should we do overall episode grades?
Yeah. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Sure.
I really liked this episode. I thought the pacing was really, really well. I think it went pretty quickly. There was no lulls in the story. And it made me laugh a lot, so I'm going to give it an A for sure.
Straight A.
There was a lot of quotable moments.
Absolutely. I agree.
This episode, do we remember the episode with McGurk and the gingivitis?
Yes.
This episode did what I wanted the gingivitis episode to do, which is to actually follow the whole plot point with the gingivitis and McGurk.
Yeah.
And like it was just built in. You could have ended the episode at the dentist office, but we never got that. So I think this episode was very smooth, very fun to enjoy. I was kind of holding on to the seat of my to the edge of my seat when I was watching Brennan, and he was getting close to the writer's fair. So the stakes were there. Mr. Lynch was very funny. McGurk was great. Jason, Melissa, like a good Jason, Melissa, Brennan like home movies episode where they're like working together. Very good. I gave it an A.
All right. Well, like I had said, this episode definitely has one of those very quotable moments of McGurk's. This plot line of him and the sleep study and the DVD and all that stuff, it is kind of a classic one. I'm afraid I might have overhyped it a little bit because you guys are like, why is that even such a quotable line of his? For whatever reason, like that line stuck.
Don't get me wrong, it's a very funny line. I'm just surprised because he has I'm surprised I'm Crying isn't one of his trifectas. Because that's such a funny bit.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode 2, the part where he's like falling asleep and he like has his hand up and he's like, DVD. When I interviewed Chris Georginas, we had a conversation about that exact scene that he animated and him using his own hand as a reference point of like hand open, then closing, then falling down. So yeah, it's a very, very kind of iconic scene. It's kind of one of, McGurk's more iconic storylines of just him not being able to sleep. For me, this episode is an easy A. I don't think it's an A-. I don't think it's an A+. I think it's just a straight A episode.
Hey. Very fun, very good episode. I did like that scene with McGurk when I kind of wanted to gifify that one scene where he's holding, come on, McGurk, and he holds his own picture frame. And it's like,
stay with me.
Yeah.
he's like moving and rotating, and it's like he's losing touch with reality. Yeah. Too good.
Yep, and he's holding that same picture frame of him and
Sammy.
I knew
Sammy. Thank you.
Sammy Sosa.
No. Okay. Well, I think that's gonna be it for this episode. Was there anything else we wanted to add on before we get to them plugs?
No.
No. Just good fun episode.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. So what we got next are those sweet plugs.
Plug me up, brother. Don't take the brother part out.
Never. All right, Marcin, why don't you go first?
I'm reaching into my bag of infinite projects here. I'm still working on the feature film I started in 2016. It's called The Doorman, and it's really weird experimental. I started working on it before I even understood how anything in film works, like genres or anything like that, so I don't really know how to classify it. All I know is that it's going to get done one day, hopefully. But the logline is, when his childhood friends ghost him, our main character is called to the madhouse, where he forgets who he is and becomes prey to the man in the doorway. In order to escape, he must answer who he is, what he wants, and what his favorite color is. So that's a mouthful, but that's all the projects I'm working on.
Hell yeah. We did not plan that.
No, we didn't. I think we're a unit at this point.
Hell yeah.
An absolute unit.
So sometimes I paint, sometimes I make things, and sometimes I post that on my Instagram, which is the Artisanal of Oddity. That is Artisanal of Oddity at www.instagram.com. And that's my plug.
And as always, this podcast is brought to you by the Happy Corner Podcast. They were nice enough to donate equipment to us so we could keep this podcast going. So we always want to give them a nice little shout out at the end. The Happy Corner Podcast streams every Sunday at 1:45 Central. And then you can get the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode of Rewatching Home Movies. Join us next week for Season 2, Episode 12, Pizza Club. If you liked what you heard, check out our Linktree at Linktree/RHMpod. There you can like, follow, and subscribe. Send us an email or leave us a 5-star review. I will read 5-star reviews on the podcast, like this one from The Wizard's Baker, which says, I don't care about report card. I only care about home movies. Thank you, Wizards Baker. Also, thank you to Shannon Conway for the refresh of our logo and Chris Bongat for the use of our theme song. On behalf of myself, Tim, and my co-host Marcin, and Adele, thank you for rewatching home movies with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.